Yes, I got that. I just did it. I just fixed it. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. What's up, everyone? And my tab crashed as soon as I went live here. So, what's up, Kenneth Young? Appreciate you coming through. Uh, Detro 0816 8861. Appreciate that. Yeah, it was definitely a typo. I did fix it though, so we should be all set for now. Make sure you say hello so we can welcome you into the chat. Thank you guys so much. Most importantly, always, as always, hit the like as well. I don't know what's going on. Am I lagging or what here? So I don't know what's going on. Um, I don't know what's up with that. Yeah, I don't know what's up. I turned everything off in my house. So, all right, everyone, we're gonna get going here. I appreciate you guys coming. It shows me lagging here. I hope I'm not lagging. What's up, everyone? Vivian Cherry. Let's see. What is this? All right, how's my connection there? Am I lagging? It keeps dropping me off here. What's up, Vivian Cherry? Hello. Uh, Br- Britam. What is going on with my connection here? Am I lagging or what here? All right, listen, I'm doing this from my phone here. So give me a second here. I got to reboot my computer here. So just give me a second. I just logged onto my phone here, so I don't know what's going on, but we'll get it together here. So just hold on a second. My computer is rebooting right now, so give me a second. I do apologize for the technical difficulties. It's taking my computer forever to reboot here. Anyway, I hope everybody's enjoying the weather. It's been nice out. I guess it's not supposed to be nice in the next couple of days, or maybe on Sunday. But what is going on here? So it didn't update to my browser. What's up with that? So, let's go StreamYard. Come on now. I'm live here. All right. Hopefully, this is going to work out here. All right. All right. I apologize for all this. Let me see. Let me clear my cookies and stuff here. So I don't know what was slowing me down here. Delete browsing data. Clear. Delete data. All right. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Hopefully that fixed everything. I don't know what was up with that. And now my freaking camera's all messed up. Who's touching my camera? Mm. What the heck? All right. Microphone is checked. Check, check. Come on. I swear I had all this set up before, so I don't know. I don't know what is going on here. So what is this? What is this? What is going on here? I'm trying to. I'm trying to make it interesting here. All right, now that my camera's adjusting, I guess I had to reboot my computer here, so it's doing a bunch of funky stuff here, trying to catch up. So my camera is all off and all that kind of stuff. Nice weather here in DC. Okay, okay. Cynthia Robinson kept watching the replay. Yeah, listen, at this point, I don't blame you. Watching from LA. It's got to be hot there in LA, right? I hope I'm not lagging right now. Am I lagging, or just let me know? Yes, thank you all for joining the show. All that kind of good stuff. All right. All right, so many of us left BGS's stream, so I said I wanted to do this as well. Streams, not like a kung fu movie. Okay. All right, cool, cool, cool. So now I got to go in here and set up all this stuff that I had on here. Man, this is crazy. I don't know what happened. I deeply, deeply apologize. All right, let's see here. I'm just going to cancel this out. Let's see here. Instagram. I had a couple warm-up videos as I normally do, but now now it's asking me to log into all this stuff all over again. So this is crazy because I cleared the cookies out and nothing's working here. So yeah, I'm definitely making the show interesting, right? Close that out. Close this out. Okay. Okay. Turn on notifications. No. I appreciate y'all rocking the brother because this is incredibly frustrating and embarrassing, quite honestly. But all right. So I got a couple of videos we're going to show here. I'm going to be listening in the background. Appreciate you, Rhonda. Okay. Let's see. And I had a video that I wanted to show a little bit later here, but I think we can go here. All right. So many of us left another YouTuber that I follow, BGS Ibmore. He pops in from time to time. And so he did a really, really good job with a video that I've from a lady that I have played before, Amanda Claypool. And she's only got like 12,000 subs. I don't know why she doesn't have more. In my estimation, she's really, really doing a good job and really being at least fair and balanced, or at least really putting forth a male point of view as to what we're seeing in the dating market, etc. So I wanted to continue that conversation. I know some of the ladies, I have a larger female audience. So many of them maybe have not seen this article that this lady is going to cover. But today we're going to talk about that men are not compromising to get married. I thought I fixed this. Did I not fix the name of the stream? Or is this thing not updated here? Go to my channel. What is going on here? What is happening here? YouTube. Oh, this is why I cleared everything out here. So now I got to log back into YouTube. Oh my God. Okay, yeah, I'm definitely making the stream interesting here. Switch account. Here we go. Yeah, y'all gonna have to fast forward this or watching this in the future. All right. Okay, let's go to view my channel. Did I not change the name of the stream? Men are not. It's still that same stupid thing here. Okay, let me edit this. Men are not. All right. Change the name of the stream. One thing at a time here. All right. It's not letting me change it. It's telling me I'm logged out. So I don't know what's going on. Yeah, definitely. The GS had a very, very good stream here. So it's giving me all kind of problems in the background here. It's not letting me log out and change the name of this, but I will definitely change the name of this stream. Anyway, so let's get going here. So let's put some stuff on the screen here. So we're going to play some YouTube videos here, and let's look at what's going on within the dating market and what some ladies are saying within the dating market. We'll start off with this one here.
One of my biggest revelations in decentering men and still like wanting to sleep with them, unfortunately, is that men are just going to be joyful moments throughout my life. They are not my life path. They are not there. If they come in and they can ride the life path with me, make it better, more exciting, that is amazing. But I am riding this. And so I don't have the expectation that one man's going to come in and be able to go with me the whole way, because I've never met a man who likes to grow as exponentially as I do. So when I think of it that way, I think any men coming into my life as fun moments. If they make my life worse, bye. Like, it doesn't change anything of the course of my life. And I think that's where marriage is the biggest sham and holds so many women back on the course of their life, because we are taught that we need a man to get through it. When in fact, I think men who can't meet us where we are absolute fucking dead weights. on our path to life. So my goal in life is nothing about finding romance and finding the one at the end. It is all stuff that I want to do, how I want to lead my life is happy, happy, happy. And I just am okay with having joyful moments with men, and it can be multiple men. I don't care. I don't care. Are you coming into my life? Are you making it better? If you're making it worse, bye. Like, it just doesn't affect me. And that is what the beauty of decentering men has done for me. And it just changes my entire perspective. And I think more women are doing this, and it's going to fucking change the world, because we have been sold a lie. And that is the fairy tale that we need a man. One of my biggest revelations.
So it's definitely going to change the world. This sounds to me like as if the people who have come into her life have not been able to live up to whatever her standards are. You know, this is her life and how she wants to live it. She wants to enjoy the company of multiple men. That's her choice. But it sounds like sour grapes to me. But and some people are in the comments saying yes, multiple men all at once. And I just had a conversation with Anita today from Better Love Movement. We were talking about this today, and she and I are both under the impression that these ladies are just simply coping and capping and just trying to make lemonade out of lemons. So we had a long discussion about that today. So, take it for what it's worth. That's her opinion. But I want to play it to get it out there that this is what she is running into. So let's see. Next one up is Scott Galloway, who can't ever get off the train of men are not living up to par. Same thing as this particular lady. We'll listen to her.
In her 30s who doesn't have romantic love. It's like the greatest tragedy ever. Poor Lisa never found romantic love, and now she's in her 40s and she has cats. What a tragedy. Guess what? Lisa's just fine. All of the research shows the following. Men need and benefit from relationships much more than women. Widows are happier after their husband dies. True. This is true. Women do live longer in relationships. They live 2 to 4 years longer.
So do men.
Men live 4 to 7 years longer. If a man hasn't cohabitated with a woman or been married by the time he's 30, there's a 1 in 3 chance he'll be a substance abuser. When women don't have a romantic relationship, oftentimes pour a lot of that energy back into their friend network and their professional lives. When men don't have a relationship, they pour a lot of that energy back into online content, nationalism, misogyny, anti-immigration. They start blaming other people for their problems.
I often wonder who's Scott talking to. Is he talking to women to say, get with a man? Is he talking to men to say, what are you doing in your life? I don't understand who he's talking to when he's saying this. It's very curious to me, and I've looked to see what male podcasts he's been on when he's been addressing these types of ideas, and I just maybe I'm not seeing it, and I don't follow Scott that much. Some of the research is murky at best. I tend to believe that men are better. Men and women are better together. But Scott's just I don't know. Again, why is he addressing this, and who is he addressing? Is it to men to get into relationships? Are men and women drifting and falling further apart from one another? It's a curious phenomenon. It's a curious phenomenon as to what he's saying, who he's talking to, and I just don't understand it. I don't understand it. Is he going to male forums, podcasts, and speaking and talking like this? It's curious to me as to what he's saying and why he's saying it. So, all right. Let's see. What are we finding out here? Here's a lady. Here's a good question for us. What do you guys think about this particular question? This lady went to a bar, and the guy only offered to buy her a drink, and refused, didn't offer to buy the other ladies that she was sitting with a drink, and she's all upset about that.
Am I wrong or is this a red flag?
I'm going to have to delete this here because she's playing music in the background. I didn't realize that, so I'm going to have to delete this later.
So I was at happy hour the other day with me, my sister, and my niece. We were having a good time. Drinks was flowing, you know. It was a nice time. It was a guy at the bar. We were sitting in the bar area, but we were in like a bar top table behind him. He noticed me. I noticed him. The waitress came to our table. She asked if we want another round of drinks. And he said, what is she drinking? Talking about me. I told him it was a glass of wine, a glass of Pinot. He said, put it on my tab. I got that, right? Which was nice. That was a nice gesture. He paid for my drink. But my question is, should he have paid for all three of our drinks? Because usually when I'm out and a guy does that, if it's other women at the table, he'll pay for all. He'll say that round is on me, it's all three. And this guy didn't. It was an older guy. I mean, I am just used to that's what guys do. Should he have paid for all three of our drinks? And I think he might have bought me another drink. I'm not sure. The wine was flowing. But he didn't pay for all three. He only paid for my drink. So is that a red flag? Should he have paid for all three? Or was that one enough?
So the wine was flowing. She don't even know how many drinks she got. All she remembers is he didn't pay for my other sister. But I don't know how many drinks he brought me. Can't make this up. Can't make this up. Mate trying to gauge his pockets. Maybe trying to gauge his pockets. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not buying anybody a drink. I'm only interested in one person. And first of all, I don't buy drinks. I don't buy drinks for strangers. I think that's madness. But whatever. People do what they want to do. Get somebody's attention how you want to get it. I don't care. Michael Malice says he's talking to white female academics, feminists, and feminist mothers that have sons. He's trying to make arguments that do not piss off white women. So I don't understand. I understand that, but saying this and then saying what? What is the outcome that he hopes to get at the end of the night, at the end of these podcasts, at the end? What is it that men need to get in relationships? Get in relationships with women who want to belittle them, who are not bringing anything to the table, who want to act like this particular young lady and just gauge and just run your pockets? Get into relationships. How? Is Scott addressing the fact that many men want to be in relationships, but the economy is not built for it? The ladies are not, as we're going to discuss here tonight, are not meeting the men where they are. They want a different role the ladies want a different role and different contract than what their fathers and grandfathers got. And so the men are saying, I don't want to deal with that. And so he's going to try to say, okay, if you don't get in relationships, you have a 1 in 3 chance of being a substance abuser. I got to find all his research. He spits out a bunch of stuff that I've never read before. It could be true. I don't know. I just haven't read all this stuff. So, the stuff about living longer, it's not overwhelming. It's like 1 to 2 years, sometimes 3. So I just don't. I don't understand the end game of what he's saying. If he's speaking to a bunch of feminists, what is the point? That you guys are just killing it and the men can't keep up? Is it just make them feel good? I don't understand. I don't understand the purpose of what he's doing and all that. And yeah, he probably is being paid to say all this stuff, but it's not going to help anyone, and it's going to drive the men who presumably you want to help get into relationships further away. That's all I can see going on here. I wouldn't want to listen to that, because the men have a story too. And is he listening to the male's story? Is he listening to the male story? Curious. Let's see here. A couple of things here. Oh, here's a good one here. This is how this lady disqualifies men, talking about how many people, what men are running into in the dating market. Here's what a lot of men are running into.
How I disqualify men from dating me. Story time for you. I was talking to someone and I had to cut things off with them. It ain't nothing to cut that bitch out. Because of some of the things I'm about to share with you right now. And when I went through this process, one of the things that he asked, which I can totally understand and respect, was for one of his beanies back. He had left out of town because he lived somewhere else, but he had left that behind. And he asked me if I could mail it to him. And when he asked me to mail it to him, he then went on to say, yeah, if you can just get it to me, that'd be great. I'll pay for the shipping. That's how I know that we would never end up together, is because his major concern in regards to sending the beanie was around money.
Are you not embarrassed? This is really embarrassing.
And that he would pay for it, as if money is my biggest concern. baby, I don't have a problem sending you your beanie back and paying for shipping. Trust me, I can handle the $7.99. It's the time to get the beanie, package it, drive to the post office, drop it off, and then drive my ass back home. That's more expensive than the shipping itself. Prioritizing time over money. The most expensive commodity you have is time. And if you think it's money, it'll never work out between us.
I guarantee you she thought she cooked on this. She thought that she was killing it on this. You cut a man off because he asked for his beanie back and he was going to send you the money to pay for the beanie? And this is a reason to not to pursue something longer and deeper? And again, there's been research, and I was considering whether I was going to cover this. BGS talked about it yesterday. A guy, psych Dr. Orion Teraband, talked about it. And I read the research. It's a 127-page paper. So I read about 30 pages of it today. It's still got a lot more to go. But it talks about, there's a Danish study from Denmark talking about when women get money, that they don't want relationships and they don't want marriage, relationships, and children. And it was framed, it's very much framed. If you read it, it's very much framed in a very female-dominated, female-centered way, that somehow the men aren't keeping up, and it's really about female equity when they get pay and all that. That's the center of it. In fact, it comes from a very female. It comes from an economics course or a school, I should say. That's who published it, because they want to know how the future is going to be. And the point of that they came up with is that the ladies are getting money. They don't want to have kids. Of course, that's going to affect the economics of the future. So I was reading through that, and here's this lady proving the exact point. They just don't need men. They just don't need men. So therefore, they're not going to go after. They're not going to pursue men. And so therefore, she can cut a man off over a beanie. The guy wanted his beanie back. Maybe his mother gave it to him. Maybe it's his favorite one, and he's willing to pay you for that. But you're talking about time, and she thought she cooked on this. It's just absolutely crazy. I mean, this is what Scott Galloway needs to address, is that ladies need to stop cutting these men off for this nonsense. He needs to address that paper that came out in 2025, fairly recently, saying that ladies, when they get money, they're the ones who don't want to get married. It's them. They're the ones who don't want to have children. This is not a male problem. The vast majority of men today want to be in relationships. The vast majority of men today want to get married. The vast majority of men want to build legacy and families. But it's the ladies who don't want to do it. So maybe I'll cover that paper, but it's 127 pages. To boil it all down is just, very long. But again, it comes from an economic forum, and they're looking for how we sustain an economic future without children. And the more money they give the women, the less they want to get married. Crazy. What's up, Coach KL? Did she want to see him again? I think that ladies are just looking for anything not to talk to somebody. I think that they're looking for anything and any reason not to talk to someone. He wanted his beanie back. He calls his mother too much. He works too much. Come on. What are we talking about here? What are we talking about? Here's this one's pretty good. It's a feminist mystique. This one's pretty good. 5 core relationship needs. Let's take a look at this one here.
That's the end of the list.
Consistent.
100 men. Consistent sex. 100
yes.
men. Mm-hmm. And there's only 5 things here. 5.
Yep.
Not 100. Across the board, they just want to be peaceful. They just want to be respected. Mm-hmm. They just want your loyalty.
Yeah.
They want attraction. Mm-hmm. And they want sex all the time.
Yeah. Now, I want you to think about something in that list. It goes back to something that the women asked for, to accept them. You said that statement, accept their baggage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Notice how we didn't say that you got to be all of this. We accept you
for who you are.
If you're willing to just give these few things. Because if you give me peace, you have peace. If you give me loyalty, you have loyalty. All of the things that they want in there is covered in the 5 things.
That's the end of the list.
Consistent.
So men just want something simple and basic, and meanwhile, the ladies have these lists that are longer than your roll of paper towels here. Here's one about at-home boyfriends, stay-at-home boyfriends.
Here's a headline for you. The stay-at-home boyfriend is now an economic trend as more women than men go to work. And the reason they found is that fewer young men, Maggie, are entering the workforce than their fathers, their parents were. Is this a trend that you are noticing personally? And what do you think about this?
Yes, well, on the internet, we call those men NEET, so they're not in education, employment, or training. I think a lot of men feel really comfortable sitting online all day long. That's a very comforting space for them. And if they're being financially supported, whether by parents or a girlfriend, God knows why that woman chose them, then of course they can continue to do that. I think that's very disturbing. I would not have a stay-at-home boyfriend personally.
Here's a headline for you.
64% of Gen Z parents say their kids rely on them financially here. So this person, my husband, stayed at home when I had a baby. It wasn't good for our relationship. I thought I would be okay with it, but I lost a lot of respect and resentment grew. I'm sure that goes all the way around. And again, the study that came out of Denmark echoes that. The ladies don't want that. Wait, I thought women wanted gender equality. No, they don't want that. They don't want that. They don't want that. They're complaining about that. And that's pretty much, I think, all I got here. That's pretty much all I got. All right. So we'll stop that. Remove that. All right, let's get into the heat, to the heat of it. Now I got to go to my history here. Yeah. Let's see here. All right, we'll pull this up on screen here. Stop screen share. All right, let me find this video here because I had a video I want to play halfway through here. Y'all hit the like button. Make sure you hit the like button. All right. Let's see. Salute. Micah Malice, I think you're in here. You want me to bring you up? I'll bring you up when I get through this. I never thought that peace is real anyway. I don't fetishizing the past. Historically, the social contract has always been broken and renegotiated based off the circumstances and feelings of women. And a lot of people have been saying that this is a very female. Who'd I play? The guy Paul Elam was saying the same thing, that it's really all based upon what the ladies want. So that becomes difficult to manage, and guys don't want that. We don't want the same thing. And this lady's gonna kind of break it down here, so we're gonna get into that. Definitely a mean girl culture. Damned if we do, damned if we don't. Right. All right. So this is share screen. This is from a lady, Amanda Claypool, and this is called Single Women Want to Get Married but Are Unwilling to Put in the Work. I'm going to give this a like. I thought this was really good. It's only got almost 6,000 views. She hasn't grown that much. I thought she'd be a lot bigger by now. But anyway, I thought she was very good. All right, so let's make this a little bit bigger here. All right. So here we go. We're listening to here. She's going to be reading from the New York Times, and as she gives her opinion, we'll break in here and give our opinion as well.
The New York Times is back at it again, trying to convince all of us that marriage is an...
Okay, hold on. What is going on with this here? Why is this blurry? Let me refresh this.
The New York Times is back.
Okay, here we go. I'm really this is a struggle stream today, I tell you that. Let's enlarge this. That's a homosexual he's living off his girlfriend. Yeah. Large. Full screen. Come on. Okay, what's up, October? All right, here we go.
New York Times is back at it again, trying to convince all of us that marriage is an awful thing and that we should give up on it and just live our best single lives. This piece looks at different generations, how they're approaching marriage and their logic behind whether or not to get married. It opens up by talking about a millennial woman in Toronto who felt unfulfilled by her relationship with her boyfriend who became her fiance, but I suspect it sounds like she didn't end up marrying him because she's now, I think, alone and prefers focusing on herself and her own needs. So she's not a narcissist at all. But she's, convinced herself that she doesn't need a marriage, she doesn't need a relationship.
They're convincing themselves of that. Somebody became a boyfriend during the pandemic. She realized she was feeling unfulfilled, but had settled out of a familiar fear. What if I end up alone? But now being alone is the goal, she said, forever. She wants to be alone. And listen, I have a daughter, so I'm very sensitive about this, but I'm quite sure that most of the ladies here only talk like this because of the current state of the economy. And if things were a lot different, they wouldn't be saying what they're saying, and that kind of hits the wrong way. So you only wanted us because you needed us as men, and now you don't need us, and now you're like, forget that. I can't think of one person in a relationship that I would want for myself. Mrs. Bo said, I've done it before and prefer focusing on me, on my own needs.
Fine on her own.
And again, this goes back to the point of which the video that Psych-Hacks did in the paper that was published back in 2025, talking about when ladies get money, all they concern themselves is about themselves. Crazy. The growing number of U.S. singles indicates she's in good company. As of 2023, the last data available from Pew Research Center, there are about 111 million single adults 18 and up in the United States. This was a sizable increase from 70 million. There's now consensus among researchers after years of study decline in marriage rates. The institution has lost its luster for many. Nobody wants to do that. I appreciate you saying that. King James. Appreciate it.
This is evidence in empirical data. So as of 2023, data from Pew Research shows that there are 111 million single adults ages 18 up in the United States, which is a sizable increase from 70 million in 1990. So a lot more people now are single than in the past. And this is important because it's not just marriage. I think marriage is a piece of this, but they're single, which means they're not even in relationships. They're not cohabitating. They're not just shunning the institution of marriage itself. They're just not engaging in relationships at all. So researchers are starting to gain a consensus that marriage has lost its luster, but I think it's a little bit bigger than that. There's one person they interviewed here that there's evidence that's not just that adults are delaying marriage, they're just dismissing it in general. And so it's interesting because they note in here, stats on decline in marriage and how rates have fallen over time. And they highlight that in 2021, there was a study that was done by the National Center for Family and Marriage Research at Bowling Green University. And they found the rates of couples marrying was at its lowest point since 1971, which shows a positive correlation with the Family Law Act of 1969 that was implemented in California, ironically signed into law by Ronald Reagan. And that is when no-fault divorce became a thing. So it was instituted in California, went into law in 1970, spread nationwide after that. So obviously once that happened, marriages started falling apart. And you can see that here because, they found that the rate of couples marrying was at its lowest since 1971, which is when that started. So what are people doing instead of getting married? Well, some are cohabitating, and they think that is close enough. And because
so if they're choosing to cohabitate, then I gotta ask the question: why are they choosing not to get married? Could it be the marriage laws? Could it be that they don't want to risk losing their not only some form of independence, but also losing finances, resources if they get married? So they're choosing to cohabitate. This isn't about partnering up. It's about the institution itself.
reason they're doing that is because they see marriage is just a contract facilitated by the state. So this is they interviewed a millennial couple in Colorado, and they said,
I definitely agree with that. It's definitely has to do with the state, and I don't want that. I do not want the state in my life.
that they had a prenup, and so they had the quote unquote legal lease in order, and that they live in a common law state. So basically, they could argue that they're already married, but then they don't have like the actual paperwork in place to signify that they're married. Some women have.
Hold on, she's kind of blowing by this here, and I wanted to listen to her commentary, but what she's missing a little bit of this here. Let me rewind this here. Rachel Skyward, 41, owns a home with her partner with her partner in Morrison, not husband and wife, but partner, right? And although the couple has no plans to marry or even get engaged, they have a prenuptial agreement. Even though they don't plan to get married, just so the legalese is in order. In their common law state, she said, in the eyes of a Colorado judge, one could argue we are married. I've talked about that before. You know, these common law states, you comporting yourself as if you're married, that could be a problem. That could be a problem when and if you decide to split up, whether you have that piece of paper or not. It could be a problem. The prenup secures assets for each of them in the event of a split. Ms. Skyward, who works in finance, is not opposed to marriage, but after divorce in 2022, I'm in no hurry to do it again. And again, she's using the word partner.
Paperwork in place to signify that they're married. Some women have said that they would like to marry, but have been disappointed by the prospects available to them. So this is Shawnee Silver, is a millennial woman. She is the one pictured here, so I can understand why she might be disappointed with the options.
She can be disappointed with the option. I think that's a shot at her. I don't think that she's all that ugly. I don't I don't know what she's throwing shade at her for.
Available to her, but here, so I can understand.
Terrible looking. Okay, whatever. I could be wrong.
Why she might be disappointed with the options that are available to her.
Host of a single serving podcast and author of What If We Never Get Married? A Happily Ever Answer, said her followers tended to be like her, single, straight, who were brought up in believing the milestones of marriage and raising a family would arrive as punctually as the phone bill.
But she claims that as millennials, we got to the age where we were promised all these things that would happen and they never did. This person lives in New Orleans, and so she's starting to see a future that can be scary because no one has really mapped it out for us. And that just feels...
It's scary because there's nobody to partner up with? Is that what she means? What's up, Chaos? What's up, Woody Pack? Appreciate you. Appreciate y'all coming through. Make sure you hit the like button.
Very infantile reading that. This is a 43-year-old woman who expects hand-holding through the whole process of...
And at 43, what are you talking about at 43? I mean, these people... they're still talking like they're 19. You're 43. 43. This is when we make videos about how feminism has lied and et cetera, right? This is what we're talking about here. This woman is 43. And you're still talking like this? That's wild to me. I'm trying to we'll do this one here.
Dating and getting married, and you can rely on some advice from people who've done it before you, but no one is going to provide you with a spouse to get married to. You have to do the work yourself and go meet guys and find one and make yourself a woman that someone would want to marry. A
woman that someone wants to marry. And this is the elimination of gender roles. This is the elimination of ladies wanting to do what was traditionally done, and the guys are looking around and saying, I don't want that. Are there a certain segment of guys who are not up to par? Probably, as one of the videos we played earlier. But how many guys who are capable, viable, would make good spouses, make good husbands, look around at the dating pool and see nothing but ladies who are in their 40s talking like this because they were so focused and worried about their careers and refusing to bring in children into the world. Why else are you going to get married?
A lot of these women are not putting in the work to do that. I think they just assume that like Prince Charming is going to swoop in and meet all of their needs, and they're not going to have to give up anything. And I think they're uncomfortable with the reality that that's not how things work. Relationships are, with two people, right? So you're coming together as one, but you're two different people, and there's work involved. And you have to, if this is a priority and you want to be married, like you have to go out and find yourself someone who wants to marry you and make yourself.
And do that earlier, and do it early. You can't wait till 43 to do this.
Marriage material, and a lot of these women they're not doing that. And so it says here, because of cultural biases that have put the onus on women to mold themselves into perfect partners, we worked on ourselves throughout our lives to become the desirable partners we were told to become. Notice here the term partner and not wife. They don't see themselves as wives or potential wives. They see themselves as partners, which is right off the bat, like repelling to a lot of men.
It's definitely repelling to a lot of men. Definitely repelling to a lot of men. And let me play this video here because I thought this would be a good point to insert this here. This is a show I've talked about before, The Diplomat. Now, I enjoy the show. I like the political intrigue. I like all of that. I like all of it. But if you have Netflix, this is one of the commercial ads to it. So hopefully I don't get any strikes for this or whatever. So this is like the advertisement to the show. I just want you to, it's going to come up really quickly. Just pay attention to the language that they use.
A terribly flawed woman is now the president, and only we know just how flawed.
Al Weiler, ambassador's wife.
Todd Penn, first lady.
This is an opportunity. You will be in the White House, watching what she does all the time.
I'm not walking around in the middle of a constitutional crisis with a resume stapled to my forehead.
Our prime minister.
So if you caught that, I'll play it again. There's a woman who is going to be, she's now the president of the United States. Their husband, one of the ambassador to England, and her husband is introducing himself to the president's husband, and he says, "I'm the wife," and then the next guy says, the president's wife says, "I'm the first lady." This is what they are saying. This is what the TV show is saying, and this isn't a one-off. I swear to you, if you watch the show, it's on every other episode where the men are calling themselves the wives. They don't want to be partners. They don't want to be spouses. They want to be wives. They want the men to be wives. The wives play a second fiddle role. That's what I think the feminists are saying. Wives have traditionally played a second fiddle role. So now the men are now the wives because now they're in the second fiddle. The diplomat is a woman, and her husband is now the wife. The first lady, excuse me, the president of the United States. It's not the first husband, he's the first woman and first lady, and this is what they're calling themselves. This I'll play it again so you guys can catch that.
Which he did.
A terribly flawed woman is now the president, and only we know just how flawed.
Al Weiler, ambassador's wife.
Todd Penn, first lady.
This is an opportunity. You will be in the White House, watching what she does all the time.
I'm not walking around in the middle of a constitutional crisis with a resume stapled to my forehead.
Our prime minister is concealing explosive information on your behalf. He will extract not 1, but 10 pounds of flesh.
We have an unspecified threat.
Are you
Fired? Probably.
Which he did.
Jeez. So that scene right there, she is now, where's the scene at? Right there. That's the guy, that's the ambassador. This is the guy she's sleeping with. And behind at this time, this guy becomes the vice president. It's a long story. So anyway, so she's having affairs, running around, moving like this, having affairs, and this guy's the wife. Just no, listen, I enjoy the show. I'm going to tell you right now, I enjoy the show. The political intrigue, I like all that kind of stuff, right? House of Cards, Game of Thrones, I like all that kind of stuff. And this is kind of on the same line. But this is what they're pushing. And as the other lady was saying, this is repulsive to a lot of men. We'll finish this out here.
The president is about to do something that is apocalyptically dumb.
There is a chance it's coming out. If it does, it's catastrophic.
When all the facts are on the table, I don't look so bad.
Respectfully,
You look very bad.
The Pentagon is drawing up battle plans for a war with Great Britain.
How many times do you have to watch her shove you in front of a moving train?
I am doing everything I can, but there is a limit.
I expected more from you.
You should get a lawyer.
Still having more affairs and whatnot. So it's, that's what we're looking at, dealing with, and all that kind of stuff. House of Cards was great before Kevin Spacey got removed. Would you say it's on par with it, Dr.? I would say that. Yeah, I definitely would say that. I actually would say I enjoyed it probably more than House of Cards. It's definitely on par with House of Cards. My opinion. Don't watch the show and then come after me. But I wouldn't push the show if I didn't think it is up there. But it's definitely up there with House of Cards. Definitely. And you're right. House of Cards was phenomenal until Kevin Spacey did what he did or whatever. So yeah. Yeah, I'm late. It's all good except for the fact that they keep in more than one episode, more than one time, making this guy and numerous other guys say, "I'm the wife." Crazy. Don't talk to me. I'm the wife. Does the wife get a car? How come I don't have a car as a wife? Who wrote this? Wild. All right, so we'll get this off here. So I want to highlight that here. We talk about this partner stuff here.
She says the men don't rise alongside us. They've stagnated. Their imbalances in domestic labor responsibilities, emotional labor responsibilities, and running a household.
So she's kind of breezing through this here. Because of cultural biases that have put the onus on women to mold themselves into perfect partners, we've worked ourselves throughout all our lives to become the desirable partners we were told to become. But that's the point. You haven't become that. The ladies have not become that. This is where this statement.
I'm going to blame on men because
men
aren't doing.
I can't highlight it here, but this is where the statement is wrong. You have not become the partners that you told. Who told you to do this? Because you're exactly repulsive to the type of men that you say that you want. But the men didn't arise along with us. They stagnated. There are imbalances in domestic labor responsibilities, emotional labor responsibilities, right? Because men are a bunch of mostly constipated babies, right? Never to mind the fact that we have to calm the situations. We have to manage our emotions, manage the household's emotions, right? Because we're not sitting there listening or talking in the same way that ladies want us to, that somehow we're emotionally stunted. Wild. And domestic labor responsibilities. She added, if you marry a man you're settling for, I don't see a lot of relationship longevity. Peter McGraw, 55, has never been married, and he acknowledges that women still bear the brunt of this age-old stigma attached to remaining single. Whatever.
Doing their part. She says they've stagnated, which no, like I don't think that's the case at all. And I've covered this in separate videos where society has put men into a box and deprived men of opportunities to be the best versions of themselves, I think, in a lot of ways. But because of the feminist paradigm and how men are viewed, there's expectations now being put on them within the household to do certain things, and that's just it's just men don't want to put up with that, and understandably so. And so
yeah, men don't want to put up with that. We don't. I mean, there's roles that we were designed to play, cultured to play, and those are the roles that we want to play. So this other stuff ain't gonna work.
Men are viewed.
I'm not getting married to be called a wife. That's just not gonna happen.
There's expectations now being put on them within the household to do certain things, and that's just it's just men don't want to put up with that, and understandably so. And so this person argues here that there needs to be equality basically within the household, where men and women are supposed to have, equal share of domestic labor, equal share of emotional labor responsibilities, but doesn't acknowledge the fact that each brings a complementary role into the household. And so some do more work in different ways than others, and it's not less than or greater than, it's just different. And women like this.
Now, generally, this conversation deals around, doing household chores, in particular when it has to do with the children. That's mostly what you're talking about. When you have kids, who's going to do all this type of stuff? And I've made the statement before that if you have children, if your wife is working, you got to help out. I mean, you know, but does that mean that your wife is now going to, or the wife is going to now cut the lawn, take the trash out? I mean, you know, I don't know what goes on in other people's homes, but this was not an issue when I was married. It wasn't an issue, right? I did what I had to do. You know, she was doing the laundry. If it was big and heavy, I would go downstairs, carry it upstairs, and then she would fold it and then put it away. I would take the dirty laundry downstairs because it was heavy. You know, she'd wash it. I'd put it in the basket, bring it upstairs. You got to be a partnership in this thing. So in that relationship, it should be, you know, so that doesn't have to do with, you know, and there's a lot of guys who enjoy cooking. So I don't know what is missing in other people's households beyond that. So, and I cut all the grass. I took all the trash out. If there was something that was broken in the house, I made sure I fixed it, or at least arranged for it to be fixed. Maybe it looks like the stagnation is because the increase in expectations. Yeah, because there's never enough. There's never enough. We're never going to get to that place called there.
Just can't see that there's a role to play, not equality. And men want to play their role. And traditional women want to play their role. They don't want this equal 50-50 split. And so again, talking about how, you know, wanting a true equality, and argues here that this is this guy here, Gen Xer, he argues that men were never socialized to view singlehood as a bad thing. So this is where, again, there's an imbalance where women are, if you're a single woman and you're older than, you know, 35, whatever, you're a spinster, right? Like there's this negative conception of an older woman who's never gotten married, whereas for men, it's not. There's not that same stigma. And so he says men were never socialized to view singlehood as a bad thing. For them, it was, you guys are fine, stay who you are, and women will fall into your lap. So again, like this woman who said that, but blaming
But
men.
I think that has changed too, because I can remember growing up, right, and the guy who maybe he was a widower, or he's, you know, again, I grew up in a church, right? So if you walked into a church as a single guy, no matter what age you were, if you're, you know, relatively healthy and had a job, the ladies were all over you. That's just not the same anymore. I'm not saying it. It's just not the same anymore. So these ladies are definitely happier being alone. They would rather sometimes be alone. They got their own money, so they're not chasing guys down like that, like they used to. So it's a completely different dynamic that's going on here. So this role about being an old crone or being a spinster or whatever, I think that's kind of going out the window here. And again, these ladies are writing these articles because, in my assumption, they want to be married. Why are you writing this article? Why do you have a podcast dedicated to this? Because this is what they want. And so, listen, there's a lot of guys who want that too. A lot of guys who want to get married. They look around, they've done the work emotionally, financially, academically. They've done the work, and they look around and say, these ladies that I'm seeing and meeting are not worth my time and effort.
Basically for their problems and for the perceived requirements imposed on them by society. And so this is a Gen Xer who says he acknowledges the double standard, but is okay being a lifelong bachelor and isn't really too concerned about it.
Well, there was a time when bachelors got made fun of too. They thought there was something, you know, a little sweet about them or whatever. So I mean, I wouldn't say that there was ever no time when a single guy who's never been married, and single guy who'd never been married, never had any kids, they would kind of look at you a certain way. So I don't think I would agree with that. There's always been some type of stigma around both genders.
It talks about here how the roles also have expanded and changed. So it's not just about being like husband and wife anymore. There's so much more to it. So he says, in 1960, when you married your husband or wife, you were not looking for that person to be everything for you. He said, now, however, the person is also supposed to be your best friend, your personal and professional confidant. For him and for much of his largely Gen X popular audience, that's too much pressure. So whereas millennials,
I agree with that. There's a lot of pressure, right? You got to be everything at all times. You got to do all these phone calls and talks and be a personal trainer and all this type of stuff, right? And again, as we played before, the video, one of the videos I played before, is the guys just want something simple. Just have sex with me a couple times, Tell me you love me. Be faithful and loyal, and we'll call it a day. But all this other stuff that comes along with the modernity, with life's modernity, and it's too much. What's going on here? And this goes to Miles's point, right? Because of increase of expectations, and it's never enough.
Expect hand-holding. Gen Xers are saying, I didn't sign up for all of this. I don't need to be your therapist. I don't need to be your BFF. Like, I want to be your husband. And if, can't have that, then what's the point?
Then what's the point? I just want to, getting married should be like a load off. It should be taking a load off, a simpler place and time and thought process. But now it's more. It's more. I just can't dig all that. I just can't, especially as Gen X. These guys are 55. I'm 53. I'm like, I feel the same way. Like, don't be a burden. Don't be a burden.
So that's how those two generations look at it. And then the third generational cohort this piece looks at is Gen Z. And so this is based on one individual who wrote an opinion piece for a student newspaper in Toronto. Again, this piece is weird too, because they're looking at marriage in the United States, but then they keep relying on interviews with people in Canada, which I think there's overlap in our culture, sure, but it's different. What's happening in Canada is very different than I think what is happening here in the United States in a lot of ways. And so this person, again, wrote a piece for the University of Toronto, and they argue that they're risk averse. So Gen Z is risk averse, that Gen Z is just delaying or outright avoiding saying I do because they just don't like taking risks at all. So
I don't agree with that. I think that Gen Z is that they've grown up with these computers and cell phones and all that, and they've seen their parents and grandparents and uncles get divorced. They're also dealing with a lot of. She's going to address this, the home buying in the job market and all that. So I think there's more to it than that.
Gen X doesn't want to deal with the expanded requirements and the emotional burden expected of men in relationships these days.
That's definitely true of me. Definitely 100%.
Millennials want hand-holding. They want someone to tell them exactly what to do, and they feel like they haven't had that and are now aging out. And Gen Z is risk-averse. They just don't want to try at all. So that's kind of the three different generational cohorts, how they're framing it here. It says, in a recent phone call, Miss Ginevra said she was among the faction that would like to get married, ideally in her late 20s or early 30s, but I'm trying to be content in my singleness. I'm preparing myself for if that doesn't happen, she said. So the thing here is, again, you can't just wait for Prince Charming to come and find.
So she's skipping over a lot here. Among her friends, both men and women, this is the millennials here, or excuse me, Gen Zs. Money is a major concern. Most want the twin bed of their childhood to be well in their rear view by the time they sign a lease or mortgage with a spouse. But it's taking a lot longer for people to settle into the financial independence and move out of their parents' house, myself included. That was another thing we played from Fox News there. Take that from what it's worth from Fox News. Dr. Manning of the National Center for Family and Marriage Research doesn't believe the disappointment and deliberations of Ms. Ginevra and others adds up to cultural movement, or that generation I do not is in the works. Yeah, I think that unfortunately, these people, as High Vibe is saying, these people are saddled down with financial debt. They got college debt. The price of homes, the price of renting is through the roof. My daughter complains about it. My son complains about it. A bunch of people have roommates. Who wants to bring a child into the world and all that? Who wants to bring a child into the world with all that?
You have to do some of the work on your own. You have to make choices that puts you in a position to find a spouse. So if you want to get married and you're a woman, you have to mold yourself into becoming wife material. If you are not currently wife material, or if you are living in a city that isn't conducive to getting married, right? Where marriage isn't really on the radar for a lot of other single folks, like you're not setting yourself up for success. So you have to do the work on your own too. You can't.
And if you want to get married, why do you want to get married? Do you have the wifely skills according to what the men want? And again, as she laid out before here, they think that they've done the work. This was a 43-year-old lady, the millennial, saying we've done the work to be, however she phrased it, to be what we, a good partner. But not if you ask the men. If you ask the men what they want in a partner, you haven't done the work. That's the point from the male point of view. You haven't done the work. Sure, you can boss up. Sure, you can pay your own bills. Sure, you can take yourself on vacation. Sure, you can do all that, but can you meet the needs of what a man is looking for? And I remember, not long ago, I did a review of the lady, and I asked her to come on the show, and she didn't want to come on. But her name was Vernique. I forget her last name. Vernique Esther, I think her name was. And she was on Instagram. She has a pretty sizable following on Instagram. And she said that a lot of ladies these days don't want to get married because the men who want to get married are looking for families and legacies, and the women are looking for emotional stability, emotional support, etc., emotional type of things. So if that's the reason the ladies want to get married, so you got all this bossing up you want to do. The study from Denmark says women don't want to get married. If they do want to get married, but yet they don't want to have children. Vernique is saying that a lot of ladies don't want to engage a man and fulfill his role as being bringing into the world a new generation. We're missing each other. The ladies are looking for emotional support animals for their life, and the men are looking for someone to carry on their legacy. And we're missing each other. And so the ladies are thinking that they've done the work. Oh, I've got a job, career, I got a college education, I got this, I got that. But the men are saying, okay, well, can you bear my kids? Can you cook those kids a meal if we do get married? But we're missing each other. We're absolutely missing each other. Sociologist Arlie Hochschild coined it in 1983. What did she coin?
Just wait for it to happen to you. And so I read this like this young woman is in the same position as the millennial, waiting for someone to guide her, but also not wanting to take any risks at the same time. And of course, a lot of younger folks are blaming this on the cost of living. And yes, there is a huge problem with the cost of living, but I think this is an oversimplification, and it's a way of not taking responsibility for yourself or for your choices. She says it's taking a lot longer for people to settle into financial independence and move out of their parents' houses, myself included. So the assumption here is you need to have a home in order to get married and have a family. And yeah, having a home certainly does help. But again, this comes back to individual choices. So I want to just throw this out here because people constantly talk about how housing is expensive. Here in Texas, housing is not expensive, depending on where you live. Sure, there can be some expensive homes, but by and large, housing is affordable. So this is Zillow just for Texas. And this is looking at the Texas Triangle. So if you're not familiar with what the Texas Triangle is, it's the corridor on I-35 from Dallas to San Antonio, east to Houston, and then back up to Dallas. And this is expected to be a major metropolitan area in the next decade or so.
Now, if you want to move to Texas, and it's going to be a major metropolitan area, and obviously, according to this, now is the time to buy. And she put in, looks like she said, 2-bedroom, 2-bath. So if you want to move to Texas, that's fine. Everybody can't move to Texas. People still have jobs where they are, and here where I live, right, in Connecticut, the rents are 18, 19, 2,000. My son not too long ago bought his own condo, and that's costing him around there. Obviously, I'm not going to put his business out there. So this is depending on where you want to live. Now, there are some places, some states, if you can afford to do it, or if you can work remotely. I think Indiana is a really cheap place to live. You can live really well on $40,000. So I'm not saying it's impossible, but you got to be willing to relocate. And you're going to relocate just to get married? Or I mean, I understand her point, but I think a little bit of this is kind of over the top. And again, if it's projected to be a major metropolitan, of course, that'll probably be good if you want to start a family, but that may not be good later on. She coined the term emotional labor. Yeah, okay, I got you. Millennials are caring for both children and parents. Yeah, probably. Yeah. Well, I'm at that age too. My mother's kind of going through it.
People who are projecting that like Dallas-Fort Worth could grow to be bigger than New York City as more and more companies and more people move to Texas. Like it's just rapidly growing. So there's a lot of opportunities that are emerging here in Texas. And what's good about that is it's possible, you know, if you see it as a triangle, it's possible to kind of live in the middle and be able to commute, or, you know, if you don't mind commuting, if you, because there's a bunch of financial firms are setting up like the Texas Stock Exchange, for example, to compete with the New York Stock Exchange. You have large companies, I think Morgan Stanley started a second headquarters in Dallas. You have a lot of like not just tech, but finance as well, relocating here to Texas. And so there's opportunities to earn a big city salary, possibly to have hybrid or some sort of remote work arrangement, and to live a small town Texas life. Again, this will vary based on what you do for work. Not everyone can do this, but it is an option that folks need to consider. So I did this for $200,000 or less, 2-bath, all just homes, right? And so there's
That's unrealistic advice if you're single, but if you have a partner and want to blend your lives, maybe relocate. But then there's the lost community. But yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think she's trying to make a point that it's possible, but again, you got family, friends, right? If you want to leave from, for example, Connecticut, go down here where it's a growing, booming place, and maybe find a good place to start a family. There's a good school system, good home, and all that, and blend your lives together. Then that's possible. But you also have to contend with not only the act of starting a family, but you also have to contend with what goes on inside the marriage, right? How does that work out inside the marriage? You know, both of you have moved away from your family. One person could become homesick. I mean, there's just so much more to it than that. So I think that this was a good attempt by her, but ultimately I think it falls flat because there's so much more to it. If you didn't watch my video today about you know what it takes to be in a marriage, you know, unfortunately we saw the pressure get to Justin Fairfax, and his wife had to pay the price, and other people who are trying to flash and floss for whatever reason, as Ashley Janae, you know, so there's a lot that goes on in marriage that has to be contended with. This is my problem with Scott Galloway. This is my problem with a lot of different podcasters and wannabe experts who are speaking about this. Today's market and today's environment and what it goes to take to sustain a long-lasting, fulfilling relationship is so much more difficult than it was in the 1950s and 60s. You know, of course, we got social media and these grandiose expectations. And so you uproot your whole life, you move here, you'll be in a pickle, right? If you can't leave, and you know, you're looking at child support, alimony, and division of assets and all that. You know, there is a problem with marriage from various angles, from the financial aspect of it, to the expectations, to the emotional regulations, the emotional support, the emotional labor that's done. And it's going to take some work to figure out how to solve this issue. Who is going to watch the kids? Maybe you survive on one income. Yeah. Yep. And moving to better economies is one of the causes of the destruction of Black families. There's even a correlation between families going into poverty as men moved from Mississippi to Chicago. Right. I'll bring you up in there in a second here, Mike.
6,000, more than 6,000 homes in this like Texas triangle-ish area, some outlying spots as well. But you can see like they're decent homes. Like you can buy a house for under $200,000. I think Waco is probably super underrated in my opinion, just because it's kind of equidistant between Austin and Dallas. So if you wanted to have an,
you know, and I hate to bring this up too, but you know, Black folks, we gotta be careful where we move to. We can't just move anywhere, you know. So
affordable housing expense, but you wanted access to a bigger city with larger employment opportunities, I think Waco, Temple, some of these other ones are the way to go. But look, I mean, there's houses for $165,000, right? $179,000, $190,000, $139,000, right? Not bad. Waco's a cute little college town. It's really not that bad. And if you can telework or remote work or don't mind commuting an hour or so into Dallas or Austin, it opens you up to a lot of opportunities. So why do I bring this up? Because I think young people think it's more expensive to get into a home than it really is. And I was one of these people because I never really fully understood it either. And it's not as expensive as people make it out to be. So if you have a $200,000 house and you have an FHA loan, you need to put $7,000 in down payment. Now, there's some caveats with that, closing costs and all that kind of thing. But a lot of states have first-time home buyer programs. And if you especially buy in a special designated community. So you're not buying in a major metropolitan area per se, but you're purchasing in a community that has some incentives to draw homeowners or home buyers in. There's assistance programs. So you might not actually need the full down payment, or closing costs might be covered.
I never read that book, The Warmth of Other Sons. I should put that on my to-do list.
There's all sorts of programs you can tap into. But really, if you want a $200,000 house, you can get an FHA loan and you need a $7,000 down payment. So that's $583 per month for 12 months. So if you either save up, you cut costs, stop, cancel your Spotify, your Netflix, you stop going out for coffee. If you can do that for a year, and or you combine that with maybe doing gig work for a year, 12 months. All you gotta do is do that for 12 months and you can have enough money for a down payment on a house in Waco, Texas, and have access to 2 major metropolitan areas. And not to mention, give yourself a personal raise because there's no state income tax here in Texas. So this is what I'm talking about. Like, you have people like this. I
didn't know there was no state income tax in Texas. I didn't know that.
Where it didn't say where she's okay, she's a singer, she's in Ontario. I don't know if this is an expensive part of Canada. If you're from Canada, tell me what the cost of living is in here, but I'm assuming she went to University of Toronto. There's some cost there, but if you have a job where you can do it anywhere, and you don't have to be in a major city, I think now's the time for Gen Zers to make a move and move to a different location.
Again, moving to a different location, even if we've addressed or talking about the support systems, who's going to watch the kids, if you want to start a family, etc., right? We've addressed that a little bit. Or can you make it on one income? That is a thing, but we're not addressing what it takes to work inside and to make a relationship last. And that, to me, has to be something that has to be tackled, because what Gen Z men want in the ladies is not the same thing that vice versa wants. I'm thinking Dr. Thunder, I think, played today or yesterday a video about ladies who are going more and more liberal in their voting patterns and in what they want in life, and the guys are staying the same or they're becoming more conservative. So it's not only the finances. Maybe we can tackle the finances, but how do we work that inside the home when ladies and men are going in different directions politically, right? Does she want to be a traditional stay-at-home wife? Does she want a partner? Do you want a partner as a man? So there's a lot that is going into what's making this more difficult. So, tackling finances is one thing. How we make that work is another.
If this is the one thing that is preventing you from getting married, if owning a home is one thing preventing you from getting married, you have to do the math and find where the homes are, because the homes do exist.
That's exactly right. They're speaking 2 different languages, and no one's willing to meet halfway. And I played a couple of videos, demonstrating that. If someone is willing to cut you off because you offered to pay for a beanie for them to ship it home, if that is a deal breaker, and I could never be with a guy who's gonna disrespect my time over a beanie, or you're meeting guys and you want to know if it's a red flag, if he's going to buy me drinks or not buy my friends drinks, and maybe he's cheap. Oh my, we've completely disconnected ourselves from reality and from each other. And how do you make that work? And so therefore you talk about emotional labor, and Gen X guys not want to deal with that. I don't want to have those conversations. I'm not going to have those conversations. I just want something that's real, that's simple, and that's cool. Let's go to the movies. Let's chill out. Let's have a good time. Presumably we're on the same page politically, or and I say politically, I don't mean just politics. I mean just how we just view the world, right? Same type of we like the same type of music and all that. So, what are we talking about here? What is all this extra stuff that's constantly being thrown at us? I can't deal with that. And so I'm assuming that a lot of Gen Z men are saying the same thing.
They exist in a lot of places where you might not expect. I think a lot of people think, it's just like rundown towns, and yeah, there are a ton of rundown towns out there, don't get me wrong. But there's a lot of cities too, like decent cities with lower costs of living that people don't recognize, and they just haven't done the research for themselves. So part of it is you have to do the work to become the type of husband or wife that someone would want to marry. But then also, if this is the impediment, like do the math and figure it out for yourself, because you might just not be aware of how much it costs. Like I lived in DC for a while, and obviously the cost of living there is exorbitant, right? I always thought I would live there. And so if I wanted to buy a home, a townhouse there, a row house is like $800,000, $1 million, right? So it's like, okay, I'll never be able to afford a home. Never once considered that there were other places where I could live. And, surprise, surprise, there are, and they're rather affordable. So I think young people need to do some homework for themselves. And so it concludes as saying that people still want to get married and are expect to be married, and they're very enthusiastic about marriage. But for all of these reasons that people aren't getting married, I'd be curious to know your thoughts on this. If you see this generational breakdown, if you're Gen X, Millennial, or Gen Z, or if you resonate with any of these perspectives, are you not interested in marriage because it comes with too much extra work and baggage? Are you not interested?
Yeah, it comes with a lot of extra work, not work, but extra work. That's the issue.
Breakdown, if you're Gen X, Millennial, or Gen Z, or if you resonate with any of these perspectives, are you not interested in marriage because it comes with too much extra work and baggage? Are you not interested in marriage because you weren't properly led down the right path to get married? Or are you not interested in marriage because you're too risk averse and you're kind of scared? You just, there's a lot of known unknowns. You see the consequences of prior generations, all the costs, no fault divorce, that kind of thing. Like, nah, not for me. I'd be curious to know kind of if this perspective aligns with you and where you identify generationally. That being said, I think marriage is still appealing. I think it's just we have to change it so it's less punitive. I think there's too much punishment. There is a lot of
less punitive. I like the way she phrased that.
risk. So I can resonate to some extent with Gen Z not wanting to marry because there is a lot of risk. So you have to. I think you have to incentivize people to get married, and you have to reduce the amount of risks involved, especially in terms.
Yes, you have to do that.
In terms of with no fault divorce and women being able to enter into relationships, demand so much from their spouses, and then not necessarily have to give up anything in return, and be able to take like half of everything he owns. I think if we want equality, I think women have to step up to the plate more and be the wives that men want. And you can see here in this article, it's clear they still don't think that way. So I think we have to overcome that for marriage to become appealing again, and change the legal structure as well to go along with that. But
I don't think they're ever going to change the legal structure.
This is again, the New York Times keeps writing these pieces, and they keep trying to convince people that marriage is bad, marriage is evil. And I think this is part of just a general psyop to convince people to be single and childless. But that's my take. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Definitely share them in the comments. Thanks as always for tuning in. I'll see you in the next video.
Okay. I think I want to play Psych Hacks video. So let me find that here. Let me put this here. Michael Malice asked to come up. This is from Michael Malice. You want to have a conversation? What is going on here? I can't put that in here. What is going on? It's not letting me put the link in the chat here. All right, let's see if that goes through there, Mike. Make sure you guys hit the like button here. Kind of low on the likes. Ryan, PSY, X. In my opinion, marriage in the West has become too complicated and not worth it. I think there are a lot of us saying that here. A lot of us saying that. What's up, brother?
Nothing much. Just watch some cars a day when I get off work. Then I had to fix one of my outdoor cameras. There's a solar panel on it broke. So yeah, I got all that out of the way. You might hear my wife and my kids in the background. They're doing their thing right now before they go to bed. But go ahead.
No, go ahead. You said you said your wife was in the background there. I'm curious as to what your thought process is concerning whether men should do what they should do going forward? I'm curious to know that.
That I might be the wrong person to ask that question.
Okay.
And this is like one of those things when I say something that BGS says something, he's actually not talking to me, he's talking to everyone else. But I look at it as desegregation means the same thing as assimilation and being with other people. And if we're the people that you live in proximity with are more likely the people you're going to get with. And I think when I look at younger guys, race, they have no like emotional or moral care to have a black woman.
I'm Dr. Orion Taraban, and this is Psych.
So
right,
it is what it is. But my opinion is, find somebody that aligns with your ideas and you're okay with her ideas. Pretty much, it's complicated at this point.
So you're right about that. So how does one? I mean, in this world, more people are meeting online because I guess I'm assuming that in their circles, be it the churches, the schools they went to, the jobs they work at, the social circles, they're not finding those types of people. So how would you? You're right. I may be asking the wrong person, but I'm gonna get your opinion because you're in a marriage right now. So how would someone navigate this world where they're meeting someone online? How would you recommend that they get together, figure out each other, and figure out if they're a good match for each other? How would they do that?
That's where they already failed. For the most part, you're more likely to have things in common with people that you grew up in proximity to. Looking online, you'll find communities, and I'm in a lot of leftist communities, conservative communities. What you find is even in discords where people meet up, they might politically, theoretically believe in the same thing, but the women don't like the guys, and the guys are just like they're operating with emotional, labor. Then reality is like they don't connect that way, So it's a facade, really, to me. I think when I talk to girls or women in discords, for the most part, even I asked when they were girls, when they were teenagers, before you were in college, and you find out they perceive themselves as better than the guys in their community, even if they grew up middle class like I did. So the people that you have most in common with, you're not attempting to be in any form of relationship with them. You look at them as friends, community friends. So it's I think if it was more public on what people wanted and people actually sat down and accepted that this lady's looking for a partner, and you wouldn't sit down and debate her on that, and you would isolate those people, you would have a community. Just like if guys stopped arguing and women stopped arguing, and they got with African women, which they're doing, Caribbean women, South American women, and you built that in your community, that's going to be the community.
How long you been married for?
2018.
Okay, so roughly 6 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is your wife black? Is she traditionally black or?
She's mixed race black. Her mother's Caribbean, Asian. She's mixed, and her dad is he's black, but too many trips to Morocco and in particular small states. I'll put it that way.
Oh, okay. So I only asked that because you talked about community, and that matters, man. I mean that matters as to how you're going to celebrate holidays, religious practices.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes people just say, and I get believe me, I get the passport bro movement, but you can't just swallow anything, because if you want it, particularly because guys want, to my estimation, guys want love. They don't want just duty, just to have someone to have their kids and clean their house. or just to have sex with or whatever. They want something more than that. So that comes and that's going to take conversation. That's going to take getting to know someone. That's going to take all that. And
Yes.
so
Oh,
and
okay. So
so
I understand what you're saying.
yeah. So
So
so there has to be some commonality in that along the way. And this is why to me this is why culture matters. You
mhm.
know?
I
Yeah.
think I started understanding. I used to talk to my grandmother about that, and I didn't get it. And right when my grandfather passed away, it's like saying like you go out and you eat some catfish, and you
Mhm.
start comparing it to your grandfather, and you imagine the experiences with that person, and that's what you look at as love. So if these people aren't actively having a real experience outside of going to some restaurant, you're not going to connect with a person to connect them to an experience in your life. Like I can go from me and Andrea, we went here, we went to this country, we walked up this mountain, we painted here, we did this, we had pictures at the NASA this, and she's connected to experience I love on top of, I love her and we have kids. And
Right. Right.
that's and I didn't really start learning it until my grandfather passed away, and I
Yeah.
started comparing stuff, and if it was a comparison, I would think of him, and I was like, that's love.
So let me read some of these comments here. High Vibe says, in my circle, we are 50% married and single, but we're all over 50, and none of us want fluid men, LOL, at all. None of identity as feminist either. None of us, I guess, identify as feminist either. What do you mean by fluid men? I think I know what you mean, but what do you mean by fluid men? And is that circle High Vibe? Are you seeing a lack of masculinity? Or people being able to do things. What type of men are you running into? You can come up to High Vibe if you want. Um, uh, let's see. I'm Black Gen Z, and the whole stay in your race thing didn't really stick with us as much as older generations. I'd like to know, a little bit more about that. I mean, again, as Michael Malice and I just talked about, right? So I'm not saying it's impossible, but how would you deal with the culture thing? Because I dated mostly Black women my whole life. I have dated outside, and sometimes I'll be watching something, or so you could be at a park or someplace else, and something will happen, and you can cut your eye at your woman, or she can cut your eye at you, and you guys know what you're thinking. That's because of
Mhm.
cultural history and all that. And so that's got to be difficult for people who marry outside of their culture, and particularly those who marry outside of their country, right? Because it's a whole nother culture, right? You may think, even if you think that you understand or have a good grasp of the language, there's still cultural nuances to that, that you still have to pick up, and it's going to take time. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not even saying it's not even worth it. I'm just saying it's something to consider.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with all that?
One of the major things that I noticed, if you're a black man and your mother and your grandmother have the ability to play a part in socializing that kid,
Mm,
everything else doesn't really matter. Because
mm,
I'll say my roots come from Mississippi and Alabama. So they
mhm,
have a particular idea of what black is. But when I had the child, my mother, she lives 10 minutes away from me, and her parents pretty much they live in the same neighborhood. But her
right.
ability to socialize my son and the grandma's ability to calm down and socialize their ideas into him are way more important than what someone your age thinks, especially my cousins, because they got checked by my grandma. And that's when they fall in line. So I just believe women, especially if you're a black male and you have the ability to give those mothers access to their grandkids, is far more superior. And that's what they really want.
Got you. Kamish says, since I'm not married to Lorelai, I had to designate her as a custodian of remains so she can carry out my final wishes without interference from any family members. Yeah, so that is a benefit of marriage. So you got to get some stuff in line if you do decide to shack up, as the old folks would say. You got to get that in line. Our complaint about single men is hookup culture. Do you think that they want to hook up because they just want to play around, or because they've been divorced before and they don't want to go through those risks anymore? Why is that? What he's saying is accurate. To get around hookup culture, disengage from social media. Yeah, that's probably right. That's 8 years, right? Yeah. Is my math off? Yeah, 8 years. Thanks for that. Denzel said culture is important. Black people understand what hair being pressed in the kitchen smells like. I definitely understand that. My mother used to do it all the time. Marriage comes with certain rights. Yeah, you're right. Play around for sure. Okay. All right. So I wanted to play a little bit of Orion Terabin and this study that he's mentioning here. Again, I was reading. It's a 127-page study, but probably less than that with the references and all that. So it's a pretty long study, and he's going to speak to it a little bit here. And this is give him the money women don't share. And this goes to the point that when women make money, that they don't want to be married, and they don't want to, in particular, have families, start kids, or start families and have kids. So let's listen to a little bit of what he's saying here.
Better Living Through Psychology. And the topic of today's short talk is give him the money. So this is a real important episode. It's based on a study by Jacobsen, Jorgensen, and Lowe that just came out of Denmark. And I have to talk about it because, I'm sorry, I just can't resist the chance to feel vindicated. Listen close, as it's going to explain a lot about the world. So this study was not a survey. It did not poll men and women's attitudes or intentions or beliefs or any of that nonsense. It was a longitudinal study using epidemiological data, like actual objective variables at the population level. And not just some of the population, not just most of the population, but the entire Danish population from 2004 through 2018. This is the kind of sample that researchers fantasize about. And when we live in an age when it has literally never been easier to do this type of research, the publication industry's continued focus on increasingly outre subsets and unverifiable constructs is, frankly, damning and irresponsible. In any case, this is like God-level validity for a study, and its findings are very robust and very significant. And what did that study find? Very simply, the analysis revealed that when men received a permanent pay increase, they were more likely to have children relative to the population baseline. However, when women received the same increase, they were not just less likely to have children, they were significantly less likely to have children. And we're not even talking about a big increase in pay here. The study revealed the effects of a 5% permanent income increase. And with just this little increase, men were 1% more likely to have children, and women were 4% less likely to have children. And my hunch, though this wasn't in the study, is that this effect only increases, though probably not linearly, as the permanent income raise increases as well. Furthermore, and very significantly, this effect was most pronounced in men and women under 30. That is, during women's peak fertility window. The two graphs kind of level off after 40, but the men remain consistently positive throughout their lifespan. That is, more money was always related to more kids in men, while the women remain consistently negative across the same timeline. That is,
I have myself muted there. You want to know why sometimes Republicans are going after women and women's rights and this, that, and the other? Because a lot of times ladies don't want to have babies. And when you read the study, I'm not saying this is whether this is positive, negative, good, bad. I'm just saying that it is what it is. When you actually read the study, it gives references about other studies that say the same thing. And you have to rattle off study up, and they rattle off study after study after study. So this study that they're saying from Denmark is not new. It's new. It's a new study, but it's not new in information. They've known this for years, that when women make more money, they don't want to have kids. They don't want to have babies. Good, bad, positive, negative. It is what it is. And this study, again, it came out in 2025. This is well known. This is well documented in multiple countries. So
There's
this
different
phenomenon is
forms
not
of it
new.
too. Like for example, I have two kids. We get back like 4,300 a year, and I was talking to my mom, and it's not the first time, but right when she said it, I used to get 15,000 free, and I'm like, you were like an E6 in the army. She's like, it doesn't matter. And so when you start looking at your state and federal policies that influence women having kids, it gets really interesting. The things that they provided to basically kind of influence women to have children. It's interesting. So,
Glorious Love says, I can really see that perspective having been in executive level offices. Most of the women that I work with at that level had very little interest in establishing families. But the men, on the other hand, would have the families, I'm assuming. I'm assuming. So
more money was always related to fewer kids in women. Holy shit. Now, if I seem surprised, it's because I am. I'm not surprised by the results of the study. I'm surprised by how perfectly this study substantiates so much of my theory. Let's get to it. Those who have read my book, The Value of Others, and those who haven't should get their hands on a copy like right away, will know that one of my fundamental premises is that people enter into relationships to exchange unequal goods of comparable value. And when it comes to sexual relationships, these resources typically include the resources of men and the sexual opportunity of women.
What is it? Men want the sexual opportunity and women want the resources. That's what people are getting married for. This emotional stuff that other people are saying, that ain't gonna work. That ain't gonna work. In inducing men to get married. The reason that they entered into these contracts is because they got sex and because they got children out of it. If you're not going to give them that, then what are they going to get married for? From the male perspective, you're correct, Dr. L. Most of the men on the executive level had families already. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Can't or won't happen for whatever reason, no relationship occurs. Anyone who disagrees with this needs to pause and look around. Like, do you see any relationships where the woman is with a man who has nothing to offer, and or the man is with a woman he doesn't want to have sex with? No? Huh. It's fascinating. The people who choose to continue to get upset by this remain baffling to me. But let's get back to the study. Whether it's cultural or biological, it's probably a bit of both, and we don't have to split hairs over the ratio here. Men are programmed to be protector providers, and women overwhelmingly agree with this. Like every
And High Vibe says, makes sense, Glorious Love, because how could they hold that level of position with families unless they want someone else to raise their kids? And the ladies don't want that, right? They don't want to be generally, most of the time, even though there is a rising phenomenon of this. Women don't want to take care of men. And they don't want to take care of men. And even the Fox News that I played at the very, very beginning when I wasn't having technical difficulties, they said, why would you choose a man who's sitting at home playing video games all day?
well, a lot of them haven't been trained when you're sick. Like, I'm not the only one that had this experience the first time, but it's like, okay, you're sick. Have a good day. And it's like, can you make me some noodles? Like, this is like in my 20s. Like, women just they didn't know how to deal with someone that has a cold or the flu. It's interesting. They don't want to do it, really.
They don't want to do it. You're absolutely right. They don't want to do it. They don't want to do it, which is unfortunate. Glorious Love says, I found it worse when it came to women trying to climb the executive ladder. You mean by worse, do you mean that the more that they tried to climb, that they really didn't want relationships or kids, and they were upset about it and mean about it? Is that what you mean by worse?
To do redounds to the benefit of women, never to himself. And there's no reason to be surprised by this. Since women are the gatekeepers of sex, they've run an informal eugenics program for millennia, selecting the men who best expressed those attributes over the men who didn't, which is how this behavior came to be biologically encoded in men. Are you finally ready to understand how relationships really work? in the second, how to position 100 format. My birth love of C, a $40,000 a year salary, maybe the average people are saying these, or that they don't value love, or they haven't found Jesus, or whatever people are saying these days. They're down because of simple economics. The average 25-year-old guy living in a Western city has a 10 by 10 room in an overpriced apartment he shares with two other guys, a $40,000 a year salary, maybe, and 30 grand of debt. He's looking at his situation and he is correctly thinking, how can I bring another human being into the world? I need to earn more money and make something of myself before I think of starting a family. Which
this is what I would disagree with the previous lady that we showed, because it does come down to money. Not all of it, but there's a significant part of it that comes down to money. And if these guys are not able to afford anything on their own, living in these small apartments, overpriced rent, can't buy Pampers and food, transportation, etc., why are they going to get married?
Is entirely responsible. And when, through the intensity and consistency of his efforts, he does manage to earn more money and make something of himself, he doesn't go out and buy a Ferrari. He doesn't blow it on hookers and coke. He doesn't fly himself first class to a boys' weekend in Miami. Like a few guys might do that, but not the majority of men. Rather, the vast majority of men decide once they arrive in life materially that it's time to start a family. And this isn't just me saying this, like this is literally the first line in the most famous feminist novel ever written. It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife. Jane fucking Austen. So what's my point? Simple. Men share. Men share. The vast majority of men share. When they do well, they spread it around. They give it to women. They give it to children. And they provide for others. However, the same is not true of women. When women get the same resources, they don't think, now that I'm in possession of a good fortune, I must be in want of a husband. They overwhelmingly say, I don't need a man. I'm not going to pay a grown man's bills. That's a boy, not a man. I'm going to take care of me. What the data reveal is that women don't share. They compete with men in the professional marketplace for the same money, and when they get it, they keep it to themselves. And what could possibly corroborate the observation that women use men for resources better than the fact that women have less interest in men when they have their own resources? Like, you can't make this shit up. Now, you might cavil that the research findings are about children, not men, but this is somewhat specious, right? Like, where do you think kids come from? But that's only the most obvious response. We're going to have to go a little deeper and a little darker, because it turns out women aren't always full of sugar and spice and everything nice.
I was just saying this to Dr. Thunder today in the show he did, and this is something that men had their head kicked in to really understand. We grew up, at least the way that I grew up, is that women were sugar spice, everything nice. They didn't do anything wrong. They didn't poop. Just that they were everything, and you had to kind of be disabused of that frame of thinking in order to really function as an adult man, because you will get burned and hurt if you think that ladies don't make mistakes and that they should always be believed and all this other stuff. You will set yourself up for failure.
Now, while there have been many, many fantastic, loving, devoted mothers in the world, mothers who want to be mothers, who love and care for their children, who consider it the greatest thing they've ever done with their lives, there have also been many women, both throughout history and today, who use children to secure resources from men. So it's not just that men provide resources to women, it's that children provide resources to women through men. Don't believe me? Do you know anyone who accidentally got pregnant in order to get a man to marry her? Do you know anyone who, in a struggling and dysfunctional relationship, decided to have children in order to save the marriage? And did you know that child support has absolutely nothing to do with what a child needs in order to have?
That's definitely true. When I tell you that working with and for that type of woman can be awful, remember the movie The Devil Wears Prada. There's another one coming out. Devil Wears Prada 2 or 3 or something. So
These are kind of the conversations that me and BGS have, and we both kind of introduced it to each other. But he was direct. He understood it more than I did. And I said, it's kind of crazy if I'm over my great aunt's house or I was over my grandma's house and a female cousin got pregnant. Like the attitude from my grandmother is like, when your monthly starts, and I heard one time, why him? And I was a kid and I was looking, I was pretty much like a teenager. And I was looking, just listening, but I didn't comprehend the conversation that they were having. And he kind of filled in the space of it and said she can basically lie about 40% to her mother, but the other 60 she can't hide. And the mother is holding her accountable. You just don't get it until you get it. So it's interesting.
I worked in a very male dominated space, so this is curious to me. High Vibe says, talk about it. Women in leadership are worse than men, particularly to other women. Yeah, wow. Let's see. Robert Smith is a billionaire, and he took it upon himself to pay off the tuition of a whole graduate class tuition at Morehouse. What black female millionaire billionaire has done that for Spelman?
Yeah, they came after him after that too. They came after him.
Right,
Like
because even though he did that, his wife was white, so they came after him, right? So,
no, the government came after him.
Oh, did he? Oh, did they?
Yeah, he was basically it was a trade offshores in like the islands, and basically he wasn't a major person in it, but I think he had to pay like I think 500 million in fines, and then they used basically his testimony to lock up a particular guy that was transferring money overseas. It gets really interesting. Then he was trying to. They came after him. The reason they came after him is he was trying to make a STEM technology situation for young black men, and they shut that down. They shut it down.
I gotta look into this. I was not aware of that. I was not aware of that. And also probably because they lost a lot of. I'm sure what you said is true, but also they lost a lot of interest, right? I mean, they look forward.
Yes.
They look forward to the interest. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I gotta check that out. That's interesting.
Have a healthy and comfortable lifestyle, and absolutely
Yeah. Email it to me, please.
everything to do with the amount of available resources that can be extracted from the man in question. Look, women want resources. They always have, and they always will. They are more about the bag than the finance bros they like to mock. And historically, women have used men and children to get those resources. So are we really so surprised to learn that when we just give women the resources directly, they choose to dispense with the men and the children? Like, that is an economically rational decision. Like, women have cut out the middlemen, which has provided them with better operational margins. Now, the researchers of the study interpreted these results by basically arguing that raising women's income was a kind of golden handcuff. That is, now that they were making more, the opportunity cost to leave the workforce to have children was just too great, considering that women are still disproportionately responsible for childcare. And
this is what he's calling the golden handcuff. I never heard that term before, but this is what Glorious Love and High Vibe have been speaking about, right? They become worse than the men, worse than any other type of woman, and they talk crazy, and they're just so into their job, and they start looking down. Somebody said that, start looking down at or begin to resent other married women with children because, probably because they can't have kids, or because they feel like as if the women are wasting their lives by having children, etc. So that's definitely a dynamic that needs to be researched. The Iceman says, can you have the guest provide some more details about that? I'm interested in doing something similar that would be vital info to consider. Yeah, I definitely like to once we get that, maybe I'll do a show about it or something, because that's definitely interesting. If you're paying off other people's student loans, or that's definitely something to consider, particularly if you want to start a company or start some type of agency or nonprofit or whatever to help people pay off their student loans, you don't want the government coming after you. So that, yeah, that's definitely something that needs to be explored. Funny thing is that men have known these facts, but it helps to have that data to support it. Yeah, we've known this. We've known this. Yeah.
Of course, apologists will argue that this is true, not because of the biological realities involved, but because of residual sexism and misogyny. However, that's what's so great about this study. Denmark is like literally the most sexually egalitarian society in the entire world, and apparently it's still sexist. Like, it never ends. It really doesn't. Now,
and again, if you read the study, and again, I'm only 30 pages into it, but this is the point of the study. It was supposed to prove how sexist the workplace is, and again, it came from an economist format because they wanted to make sure that the next generation was going to be just as viable and how they're going to make more money. And they found it was kind of an accident that they found out that, whoa, you give these ladies money and they're not going to have the kids to feed the next generation of workers and managers, etc. So, but again,
yeah, they've been on this.
Right. They've been on this.
what you find is, okay, so if you put more women in the workforce, it causes inflation. It causes the same inflation that when kids graduate high school and enter the workforce. So the only way you deal with that inflation is increasing the price or increasing taxes. It's crazy. And before Elizabeth Warren sold out, she was speaking on this about and she tried to target middle-class families and how the economics changed as women advanced in the work area of the economy. And the economics are shifted by the capitalists and people that come up with economic philosophy. It's crazy.
Yeah. Elizabeth Warren is very smart with that. So, and listen, I'm sure that they all know. I'm sure that they all know, but they can't say what Orion here is saying or what others are saying. They can't say it out loud because they would lose their voter base. They can't say this.
Probably some truth to that explanation. Like, golden handcuffs are a thing, but it largely misses the point. Like, that opportunity cost is still there when the woman makes less money, and it would be tough to argue that childcare becomes more difficult the more resources you have at your disposal. So I'm not really buying it. I think the researchers offered this interpretation because a fantastic study that presented the more honest and obvious, but less acceptable interpretation would not have gotten published. And that interpretation is simple. When you give men money, they share it with women and children. And
they went out of their way in the study, at least the first 30 pages I said, to not say this. They went out of their way to and they use a lot of fancy language and a lot of talking to not say exactly what he's saying right here. We know that when men have jobs, when men have money, they produce children. At least they get wives to help them produce children. That's not the case otherwise. And they don't want to say this out loud.
When you give women money, they keep it for themselves. And why wouldn't this be the case? Women have been on the receiving end of men's selected protection provision for millennia. And when they are suddenly in the position to protect and provide themselves, they don't do it. They don't do it. Probably because there is absolutely no culture to support that behavior in women. And it has never been selected for by men in the history of the human race. So if we want to address the population collapse in a relative reality-based way, this paper offers a practical suggestion. Give him the money. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. So what do you think? Does this fit with your own experience? Let me know in the comments below. And please send this episode to someone who you think might benefit from its message, because it's word of mouth referrals like this that really help to make the channel grow.
All right, that's that brother there. So this is the compromise that men are dealing with. This is the conversations that they're having, and it's difficult to say it out loud for people to understand and to accept, because you don't want to hurt some ladies' feelings. But a lot of men are looking around and saying the price of everything is too expensive. The women are not worth marrying. And if we're economically not viable, the women aren't going to select us. If we're economically not viable, I'm not going to produce children, right? Responsible men aren't going to do that. So this is where we're at. So
Yeah.
ladies who want to get married, particularly those who are under 30, this is what you're looking at. So
Yeah, the book that I gave you, when there were so many black discussions, James Baldwin and Nikki, I always forget her last name, but I do things like spider web, so I just start connecting stuff. But emotional labor, it got really popular when women entered the service sector in the late 70s, and they were dealing with emotional problems. And what companies were asking for was to not project out your internal feelings. So smile even if you're not happy on the inside. Ask someone how they're doing, smile and do this and do this, and because you're servicing people. And naturally, emotional labor, the center of that is child caretaking and everything. And they put that into the workplace. And so the more I read that book, and then I was like, wait, is this the same thing that Nikki and James Baldwin were talking about in their interview? And what you find is women don't like being judged, but to take off your mask and show someone who you really are is the issue. So if I'm putting on a smile on my face when I enter the workforce, when I go places and I'm not presenting really how I feel, you eventually get burnt out. And the first place you express it is in your household. And when you listen to that conversation, she's talking about emotional labor before it was coined. And she's asking for him to keep the mask on while she takes hers off.
you're talking about
And if you
Nikki
yes,
Giovanni, right?
yeah, Giovanni. And these things have been talked about, but it wasn't coined at that time. But it's the exact same thing. And
Right.
you get burnt out. You get burnt out.
Yeah. Code switching and lie to me. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, man. I'm gonna call it for tonight, man. I appreciate you, man, coming up, man. Let me give Chaos here. You got 20 seconds there, Chaos. We're about to call it for tonight, man. What do you got to say, brother?
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, man.
Yeah, man. You know what's interesting? There are some deals that be made, and like Lay said that the marriage thing should be reformed. That was talking on the screen, but when she mean reform, it means reform for betterment for the male or just for women. No one will ask that question because she says reform, but what she mean? Because usually, if we look at the data, most of the ladies are walking out more than the men, and the men that decide to go through marriage or check out, it's really revealing that who you trying to reform for what is the biggest question. Because
I think that if you're talking about Amanda Claypool, she was definitely in the camp that you should reform the marriage law so the men would want to get married. I'll take that that's how I interpret what she was saying.
Okay. So she, when ladies do these content and that specific, some women will listen and say, okay, marriage reform. Okay, that means make it easy on me, and women will think it's on them instead of being specific and detailed. But when we hear about it, it's like we say, all right, we're not sure what you're talking about marriage reform, because that can go both ways. Because I'm just Jerry, seriously, because if we talk about marriage reform, and we say as men, people said so you want to make it easier so we don't get nothing out of the deal, because a man's dealing with perspective said, well, it should be fair enough for me to, if I'm going to take you on, I don't get burnt, and I'm going to give you details why I say it should be reformed, instead of saying marriage should be reformed, because it don't really mean nothing. Dr. Ellis, personally.
I got you.
I have issues with marriage reform, and it's mostly the issues with the conservative side and how they fantasize what it would be if your wife couldn't just divorce you. And I'm like, okay, so you want to wake up getting a Hennessy bottle poured on you and a bottle slammed over your head. Okay, and you're forced to stay. You're forced to stay. That sounds great. Okay, you walk in and she's cheating on you, so she's just gonna drive you crazy until you figure out how to get that divorce that she wants. So I'm just like, it's not gonna work in your favor. It's just how the game is played. Women are smarter at that game. So
You know, Shay Sade was kind of addressing this a little bit about that. You know, guys gotta choose better, man. And what Shay Sade was saying is she was speaking about this in relation to the Ashley Janae type of situation, that men are culturated to deal with, in particular, black women's foolishness and black women's mouth and her neck rolling and snapping the fingers and all. You got to stop dealing with that. You know, if you're in a relationship and anybody's in a relationship and they're getting Hennessy poured on them or they're getting in fights with your woman, you gotta get away from that. You can't be a compromised male. That's why I advocate that you have to be a man who's able to stand on your square, who is able to stand on his own financially without a woman. So you don't have to deal with that. You should not be dealing with any type of woman who is going to put hands on you, call the police on you, any type of violence, verbal assaults. You can deal with that. You know, you should not deal with that type of thing. So,
yeah, and I was speaking in terms of divorce law, and you probably heard more of the conservative guys speak on divorce law and what they want changed. And I try to explain to them, like, she's gonna want a divorce, but legally she won't be able to get one like that. But she's gonna find a way for you to want to divorce her. Like just it just is what it is.
yeah. Well, the conservative guys aren't real.
Yeah, they're not.
And they're saying, just kind of do it, just suck it up and do it, because they got their own agenda and all that. So
Yeah, those are the white boys.
Yeah, they have their own agendas. They got their own frame of thinking about why they want to do this. They just want more meat for the grinder, more people in economics, and more people for the military and all this other stuff. So
yeah, the white guys are way more complex because the idea and how the hierarchy of whiteness works. So it's like they want that Anglo-Saxon woman first. Then it's like the Irish. When you get down to the Irish and Italian, then you get down to like Hispanic white, and then it's like I might try for the Asian, but they want authentic white people. And this, because of this idea of whiteness, is giving white women so much power to play the game that they want to play. When you really look at it, because for them to remain white, they have to present this standard that they're not really achieving, and they can dangle the idea of whiteness over their head. It's beautiful at the same time. When you're black and you see this as their primary issue, I enjoy it, but it is an issue because they want white kids.
Yeah. Tomorrow I may do a show about on my other channel here. That's why I got this up there, Dr. L's Breakdown. I may do a show about I watch a lot of international relations type of talk. And I think tomorrow I'm going to try to get a show in about noontime about they were talking about the whole UN resolution about slavery. So I'm going to try to do that over there. So but just watch out for that. If you're not subscribed to that channel, make sure you do that. Thank you guys so much for coming up. I do appreciate the conversation. Appreciate you guys, man. Really do. Men have to stop romancing the bad behavior from women, and we have to start getting preemptive with divorce. Cheating shouldn't be the fix if things are irreconcilable, and withholding sex is. Listen, man, this is why I could go on and on and on about this. I don't think you should give up our power. Right? I'm a single guy. I have everything that I need. Why am I going to give this up? Because to get married, and what do I get for that? What do I get for that as a guy? And if you're a young guy who's on his way up, you want a family, I get it. I really do get it. And I think that if you're a young guy, you should get married if you want to have kids. But you got to find someone who's going to be physically pleasing to you, who's not going to be a pain in the butt, who's going to raise your kids, comes from a good culture, good home. There's so many different variables. You don't want to be taken to the ringer. You don't want to go through a divorce. You don't want to do that. So you guys, there's so much to work on. So I gotta have you guys up another time, man. It's been on for 2 hours. I get tired after a little while. So I thank you guys. I will see you guys all tomorrow or later. Thank you guys so much. Hit the like button if you have not hit it. Take care. Much love and peace, everyone. Thank you guys so much for checking out the show.
Hey, thanks for letting me come up, man. When I look at a lot of this stuff, we're off air, right?
No, hold on a second. No, hold on a second.
Take care, everybody.
I gotta log in again here. Hold on.
You know, that's why I said we talking and we still on the air. Give him a second. Make sure you guys hype the video. There's something new feature on YouTube. Hype the video. Go back to some of those old previous one. I had to go back to the interview with the lady, the conservative lady. I don't know if you watched that lineup. I don't know if I say your name hard to Avatar. But,
watch what?
The doctor had a conservative woman on the air. She looked nice. I think she's in New York. Yeah. You had to go back to his playback. To his recent.
When I see most